his interesting fact is that when he was 4, just 4, or something after that, he lived on a reindeer farm. Have you presented before, haven't you? You certainly have, so he's got it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Chris Ingold!
Okay, ready, Chris?
Shoot! Okay, look at the traffic, look at the buildings. It's going insane down there. This isn't the real world, this is the sim world. Forget Grand Theft Auto 5 here, this is Sim City. I hate Sim City. It's the most tedious, dull thing I could possibly imagine spending a lot of time doing. But it's interesting that people want to make Sim City, they want to build it. Then they want to make little games with little sim people who, you know, kind of have little sim relationships and they go to the toilet and stuff like that. It bores me senseless. I love video games, but I kind of like to sneak around taking out enemy encampments with a great big shotgun. I'm a pacifist in real life, but somehow the gun just appeals when it's a virtual gun. And there are sort of sim people in these games too. You have the real people you have relationships with for 5 minutes in a cutscene. And then you have these other people that just exist so that you can basically shoot them, blow them up, dismember them, and whatever else you might do. And what's interesting is that, of course, the sim people you're blowing up and killing have far bigger sim brains than the sim people that you're just having a relationship with. They're just puppets acting out some script. The sim people there, they have to run away when they get shot. They don't like being shot. So you start thinking, we keep getting better and better at simulating things, faking the world. At what point do those symbols, those bits of data that say, ouch, I've got to run away, actually become real pain? What will we ever know? Here kind of things. We're always simulating stuff, making it improved and better and better and better simulations. We simulate the weather, of course. We simulate the stock market. We simulate fur, what you do if you're Pixar. We're constantly coming up with more and more and more complex simulations of everything in order that we can try and model what might happen in different scenarios. And in video games, it just increases. Apparently, the new Xbox, Microsoft are making a big thing about how they're going to harness the power of the cloud to do all those complex calculations you can't do on a single console, or possibly allow your simulated video game characters in your world to have a life when you're not actually playing. So, you know, your Sims could be off when you're having downtime, getting on with all manner, you know, getting on with their own lives, you know, having events and spend their 90% of their time actually doing their own thing. And then you come along, start buggering about with everything and sending them to the toilet when actually they want to be down the shop, going supermarket shopping or doing something. We can't possibly relate to this. We cannot possibly understand what it would be like to be a virtual creature just living in a virtual simulated universe. Or can we? Maybe we know how it's like to be a simulated people all too well. This guy is a philosopher from Oxford University called Mr. Nick Bostrom. And he's postulated that if we don't become extinct first, and that eventually we get the power to simulate human existence, then every law of probability says that we are already living in a simulation already. Because if we were, eventually we'd get to the point where we'd simulate another human existence, and within the simulation you get another one, and another one within that, like Russian dolls. So it's a bit daft to think we'd be the first one. If we ever get to the point of making a simulation where people can think of ourselves, it's almost certain that we would do it. Now think about Moore's law at the moment. Computing power doubles every 5 years, so that would take a hell of a long time. At the moment, they reckon they can accurately simulate an atom. In 100 years, a molecule, but then they only reckon in about 120 years it might get to the whole human body. And of course, we don't need to simulate everything. Anyone who's ever done any computer graphics knows you only need to model that which someone is looking at. If nothing isn't being observed, it doesn't need to be rendered. You can just have it as data that it exists somewhere and render it when you come to see it. Kind of a little bit like the uncertainty principle in physics. As you know, when you get to very, very, very small particles, they could be in multiple places at once, but when someone looks at them, suddenly they're somewhere. But no, I mean, that's just ridiculous. You know, kind of, we can't be living in this artificial sort of existence, you know, kind of, people can't take that seriously. Except they can. Because last November, a bunch of physicists, this lot, published a paper where they went out and they'd said, if we all lived in a computer simulation, what would you expect to find? They went out looking for it, and they found it. So, what is God? What is the creator of all man? Is it nothing? Is it some great big bearded bloke? Or is it just a bunch of servers in a rack somewhere? Is the apocalypse, the end of all civilization that we made $1 films about, actually look like this? Is this what we're all so frightened of? That would be awesome, wouldn't it? You'd never know anything. The end of the world would be incredibly painless if that was causing it. But you might be able to plug us all back in again. We could have an apocalypse and then just undo it, so it just plugs it back in. But if I get back to the point, if we're constantly simulating people, and this is what our video game people are doing, basically committing mass genocide, because we know film characters, Indiana Jones is a genocidal maniac, you've seen the death count and other things. one day, these little sim people in our little virtual worlds may have rights of their own. And the question is, will we ever give them? Because if anything that we can learn from human history is that once our virtual people start demanding rights, we're almost certain to withhold them and treat them like dirt. Because that's how it might be done to us. Food for thought. Good night.
Ingold, ladies and gentlemen.